Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the time together. Shelley, you want to do an intro or do I start?
I just go ahead, Joe.
Sounds good. As everybody knows, this is Shelley Lightfoot, our COO, and Ella, who makes all of this come together, sitting to my right, your left, although you love to be off camera. Today we're meeting Cesar. Good morning, Cesar.
Good morning.
Good morning. So for the next 25 minutes or so, we're going to have a discussion. Cesar built a company and then through the help of his advisors, considered if he should change the character of the asset, which he chose to do. And from that, launched from the cash flow of that company, and then the proceeds of that company grew into yet another firm, and yet another business. So Cesar, how did you start out? First off, a little bit about your background. What was your first business? How old were you when you started it?
I was 26 years old when I started the first business.
Sure. And what was that first business?
It was the real estate actually when we started. We started on the real estate investing. Right after the real estate, we did try in the food industry. We did try to sell in the farmers market. It didn't go that well, but I did like the activity, the product, but the return of the investment, the money wasn't that great. And then at the same time, since I was working on cable harnesses, so manufacturing, and I did work for 14 years on the biotechnology field.
Yes.
And that's where I did learn about processes, but most importantly, how important quality and customer loyalty is. And that was the greatest motivation for me and Yesenia to start or get into the manufacturing business. And that's how we started.
Beautiful. So describe that business when you first started it, and what year did you first start that business? And go ahead.
Yeah, Golden State Assembly, we started on March 2007. The biggest motivator for that is, again, thankfully, and because of the experience that I went through Agilent Technologies, I was able to identify a lot of room of improvement on the manufacturing business. I went through, I would like to say, at least 42 different businesses. And based on my observation and what I had learned at Agilent, the highest business that had the best efficiency, they were, I would like to say, about 41% efficiency. And that led me to believe that the opportunities on that field was tremendous, because I could have come to any customer, regardless who the supplier was. I can guarantee them 20% savings, but yet I could be making more than their suppliers.
So you saw the opportunity to, with a 42% spread, split it with the buyer, where you would end up keeping that much profit, they would have it that much lower, and you would grow. So how fast did you grow in those first years? From 2007, what was your big growth spurt years?
No, 2007 was $32,000. That's how much we made.
So when did it start really growing?
It started growing in 2009, between 2009 and 2010. That's where the great opportunities are starting to show up. And the way that they starting to show up is not that we went actually knock on the door and ask for the opportunity. Thankfully, it was just that I call it the customers started to find out and to hear and learn about us, and they, or customers, were the ones who were knocking our doors.
So the customers started to pound on your doors at that point.
That is correct.
And then, so your biggest year of growth, was that the year before you sold, or was it a steady growth thereof?
No, I think that's the big difference between our company and 98.9 of the companies out there. That well, I just learned that the most of the companies, when they're getting ready to sell, you see a big bump uh, on the last 3-4 years because they're preparing to do that.
Yes.
If you see our graph or grow, the line graph is very steady. That going like almost 80% climbing up, steady since day one until the day we sold.
So as it steadily grew, you had attorneys, CPAs, financial advisors. Did you keep your original ones? Did you not have them? How did you find the team around you?
No, I think on that I acknowledge that it was the one of our biggest mistake that we
Really?
didn't engage with CPAs, we didn't engage on advisors until late after we started or when we were already over $80 million, $70 million on revenue. We started to discover how much money we have lost through the beginning of the year, so the first years.
So as you were growing and you were hitting 10, 20, $50 million, you did not change your CPA or go to an attorney or find a good financial team like Mo, Jason, and Sandy. Why did you not do that? A, why did you not seek those advisors earlier? And B, what made you realize you needed to?
Um, I think the focus was correct. We were focusing on customer loyalty, and we were luckily overwhelmed and having project after project. We were so focused on a project, not necessarily on a number. Uh, and I think now I know that that's one of the biggest mistake that most of the small business make. As long as you have enough to waste money and pay the bills without uh, having to have a technical plan, you don't pay attention into that. When the business is starting to struggle, that I needed to, a good example is that at one point our AR was at $66 million and our AP was only at $16 million. So I had to cover the one in between to play a supply chain and all that. That's when I started to have the need to go for a loan, a business loan, a line of credit. And that's when I started to understand that banks actually do need financial, audited financials. They need a nice balance sheet. You need a controller and all the stuff. Uh, and I think that was a huge learning lesson. And that's what I say that was a mistake because we could have saved or make a lot of more money. Now knowing what I know, I would like to say that probably we were losing easily probably between $5 to $7 million just going to waste, not counting any tax advantage that we could potentially take. Um, it was just literally dumping garbage on the on the trash.
Yeah. So it wasn't until the pressure of the business and the accounts receivable versus the accounts payable and the cash flow need, that pressure caught your attention, and that's what made you say, okay, I'm going to need a loan. And in applying for the loan, you realized they wouldn't do it unless you had a cleaner set of books that they could understand. And in getting the cleaner books, you got to advisors who said, by the way, you're leaving $5 to $10 million a year on the table. Is that okay with you? And you said, what?
That is correct. And not only that, I think that I'm not proud to say, but I think that's what I try to advise now to small businesses that as they grow, we are stubborn. We believe that since we are doing great on business, we're doing great. I encourage now that lean on your advisor since day one. I know Jason was there for several years prior to that, but we were stubborn, so focused on the projects that we put the advisors, in the second or third priority when it's think as of I would like to say the huge amount of small business are in this pool that for literally just not being well educated financially uh, or trust their advisors, we get stuck in this pool that we don't go to the next step. And I think that's very important. I would like to say that probably a good 15 to 22% of a small business could be in a much better position if they will open a little bit when it comes to be more financially advised or better advised.
And even that's great advice. And even though you had a great advisor near you who was tugging on your shirt saying, "Hey, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this," you were able to say, "Look, I've got my next project. I'm gonna grow by another $10 million next year. Leave me alone. I'm growing my company."
That is correct. And just like any projects, like when we're running projects, we are a true believers, especially if you are growing fast, to run multiple projects parallel at the same time. You don't say, let me finish this project until I get the other one, because if you don't get the other one, somebody else is going to get it. So you are by default able to tackle more than one project at the same time. But when it comes to on the finance advisors, and I'm just talking by experience only. I don't know about anybody else, but I like to talk about my own experience. Uh, for some reason, we don't open our mind to work parallel to, in this case, the financial advisors and the projects. We prioritize our projects, right? And I think it's because we don't know any better until you get to give it a chance, until you get to, I'll call it, taste or see or witness the benefits, then you learn. It's like when we are young, right? When we are kids, we try not to listen to our parents or to older people because we know everything. Once you become more like myself, then you're like, now I get it. That's what they used to tell me. But yeah.
So I love that answer. So one of the things I think, in essence, that you just said is that business owners, I'm one of them too, we entrepreneurs tend to be able to focus on many projects at the same time that are growth and revenue based. So if it's a project that has growth or a project that has lots of revenue, we have unlimited bandwidth to add projects. But the project of working with our advisors to increase our net, we don't realize how big that is till later, and we don't prioritize it. And I think part of it, Cesar, as we've talked about before, is because when you were at $32,000, you didn't have the money to hire advisors, and you were just trying to add to revenue before the business went away. You've already started a business, did okay, stopped it, started a business, it did not go okay. This one's finally going okay, and we fall into a habit of growing revenue, and we can't afford the advisors, don't need them yet. But when is that moment that you suddenly realize? For you, it was 70 million with the revenue when you had to go get a loan. Even though you had an advisor like Jason tugging on your shirt, and as soon as you had a time to slow down, then it was, hey, look, Jason, we should talk.
Yeah,
All right.
and if I could just say real quick, Joe, I mean, Cesar is one of the best business people I've ever met. Everything he touches turns to gold. He's a great negotiator, a great deal guy. He's extremely smart. And he knew what I was talking about in the beginning. And one of the main things that we focused on in the very beginning is I actually, if you remember this, Cesar, had to do battle a little bit with your tax advisor in the beginning because he was trying to do anything possible to keep me out of your world when we first met. And when we started getting into the weeds, we realized that guy was way over his skis and really not capable of handling your stuff. In addition to taking on a bookkeeper that we recommended that helped you to clean things up. I mean, I think those were two critical decisions that you made early in your life when you were in the midst of all this battlefront that showed me that you are certainly worth the effort of sticking around and keeping the tug on your shirt. So I just want to acknowledge you for that, that in the space of all of that, all those projects, all that success, everything that was going right for you, you also took the time to take a minute to think about your family and take care of that issue, which was a big deal. So.
Sure. And with that all, like you said, then Jason was one of your advisors, but you were still focused on this revenue and these projects. And when you ran into the, oh my God, I need to clean this up, you reached to the person that was a great advisor to you, Jason, who then added to your team, who suggested maybe we need to clean this up with the bookkeeper, maybe we need to change CPA, maybe not, maybe the attorney. So at what point did you, Cesar, decide maybe I should stop? Let me go back. I'm going to put a bookmark there. You're growing this company. It's got a steady slope upwards of revenue. There isn't suddenly a big spike. So there isn't a big spike. And you say, maybe I should sell. Steady growth. At what point do you think to yourself, I'm on steady growth. I can either grow or I can cash out? What drove that first thought?
My kids.
Your kids, how so?
I am, and again, this is just my personal. I'm a big family guy. I believe in spend tons of time and take care of my family. So yes, I have to work tons of hours. Sometimes literally be on the clock 24/7, not in the business, but working for somebody else. But I had the honor to work with these two great scientists that they used to work for Agilent Technologies, XHP. I used to spend an average probably 4 to 6 hours every day with them, at least 3 times a week. Out of 36 inventions at that time that Agilent had invented and put in the market, 23 were invented by these two gentlemen. And they always told me many times, we're very successful. Look at this wall, all these rewards. But if there's something I will do and change in my life is to spend more time with my kids. That got stuck on my head. I think at that time I was 22, 23 years old. So when Brandon, my oldest son, that he's 12 now, started on second grade, and then Valentina was about to start going to preschool, that's when I decided that I wanted to drop them every day to school, pick them up from school, take them to activities. So we start looking at, and this Jason knows, identify a number on how we can live comfortable financially, and what did I needed to do to have that. So right now that was my priority. That is my priority. I still have fun, and I keep saying I'm going to retire, but opportunities keep coming. But my peace of mind is that I can kind of walk away or stop doing what I'm doing and focus on my kids, and I'm not gonna cancel a very important school event just so I can go and start this new opportunity. For that, of course, I take the opportunities. It's very important to have a great team, build a team, and you still can do that. But if any given event times become very tight, I will not get a heart attack and then pass away and leave my kids. That I cannot prevent it. Anytime we can die, but at least I will do as much as I can to stick around with my kids for as long as I can.
So you ended up seeing the light about spending time with your kids and your family because some business partners talked to you about what that should be. So you were looking at mentors. So you go through the sale, which we can talk about regrets or happiness about that.
Yeah.
You change the character of the asset to a bunch of cash. What do you do with the cash after that? What's your next thing? Do you just take that cash, put it in T-bills and get money? Or did you start more business?
Uh, for now, for the most part, I do lean on you guys, on our advisors across lawyers and everything. But yes, it puts you in a much different position that when you're starting a business, I would like to say that 76%, most of the people there, use as an excuse, I don't have the money to start a business.
Right.
And a very small percentage is that opportunity is there and I don't have the cash to take care of this opportunity. I think if you don't give up the eagerness, the vision that you have or had when you started a business without money, if you don't give up that, if you keep it in you, and now if you have the resources and those opportunities come, well, if you were successfully back then when you didn't have money or resources, and you now that you have them, literally you should be extremely successful, unless you make the mistake that for whatever reason, I see it on CEOs, CFOs, CCOs. I see it across that I say that 87, 88%, for whatever reason, everybody has this mentality and we read books and we go to listen to consultants. And for whatever reason, everybody thinks that now is new days, now is a different time. So everybody tends to forget the basics of doing business, the basics of negotiating with people, and they try to do the new way of doing things. And I think, in my opinion, that's a big mistake. I think even we as a person, we should keep the values that we are told by our parents or grandparents, and as now that we are in the new era or new technology era, we should keep the basics and add to it. And that's what happens in business when most of the people, when they grow and they become successful, most of them, I'm not saying everybody, but in my observation, we tend to forget what we went through and what we learned in our basics. And then we try to add a new way of doing things. And it's not about giving up one thing to apply the other one. I think if people get smart and they keep the basics and add the new technology, the AI, and all these things, you have no competitors. You are a leader.
Very much so. I completely agree. If you were going to give one piece of advice to our business owners that listen to this as well on how to choose their advisors, once they realize, hey, look, maybe my team isn't right, how do you choose the next set?
I think everything is a risk, right? And for the most part, we always hesitate. I think it's just a connection, and I think you just have to feel it. Probably it's not the best comparison, but literally it's like when you are looking for a girlfriend or a boyfriend if you're a girl, right? It
Yeah,
has to be a connection. You have to feel it, and if it doesn't work, just move on and find somebody else. But at the same time, something that I did learn going through Jason is it just literally when you ask to a girlfriend, give them an opportunity to prove at least, right? And any customer does the same thing. All we ask as a supplier, or we want an opportunity, and it's up to us to prove we are worth it or not. And then the customer decides if they want to keep giving us more business or not, right? So I think I'm a true believer in opportunities, and that's pretty much applies on advisors as well.
beautiful. So what you just shared is look at your advisors, choose one that you have a real connection with, go to them and say, I'd like to do more with you. Oh, and by the way, who else should we add? So choose somebody that you believe in, that you trust, that you have a connection with in your team, and say, I'd like to do this. Would you like to do more? And then say, help me either strengthen my current team or add the other people. I think that's great. Jason, Mo, and Sandy, congratulations on the great relationship. Thank you for including us with Cesar. Cesar, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today. I love what I will call old-fashioned wisdom. Cesar, I hear you, and I think to myself when I tell my own children, and I hear the same conversation that I had with my dad. And if he was here, I've lost him for 20 some odd years. I think the conversation would be similar to what you said. So I, of course, value it a lot.
Thank you.
So God bless everybody. Thank you all for participating and hanging out with us today. We really appreciate you. Shelley, the next one is when? Or Ella?
November 5th.
So November 5th will be our next live one. Again, thanks for spending the half an hour with us, everybody. Everybody listening online afterwards, thank you as well. See ya. Oscar, you have a good day, sir.
Thank you. You guys have a good day as well.